Hello and welcome to the Unstoppable You podcast with your host Gaby Company, a place where you can learn different tips and strategies from big leaders. Today, my guest is the beautiful Susan Carew-Holmes. She's a peace clown and author. Happiness is a big topic. Today, she will talk about this important topic. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Gabby.
Could you tell us about yourself?
Yes. In a nutshell, I've come from a working class family in Australia, and like most middle sort of class Australians, sort of worked my way through school, and I ended up going through university and studying economics and marketing, and I worked for a good decade as a market analyst for corporations. And then in 1998, I had a dream when I was teaching peace, and that changed my entire life. My business went. I ended up dressing as a clown. I got inspired to go into hospitals by a team called Patricia Cameron Hill and Shane Yates, who were educators. And they were the ones that told me about Patch Adams. And then sometime after I did a bit of hospital clowning, I was invited to Russia to clown with Patch Adams. And it was there that I saw true happiness, because Patch is known for happiness is the best medicine. Laughter is the best medicine, actually. It's the same thing, really. Mm-hmm. So we were bringing laughter and happiness into the hospitals to help alleviate disease. So my life kind of turned into one of bringing joy to other people, and it was not about the money, whereas my prior business life had been about money. So I was working in my own business. When I left all of that, I became freer to actually think about how happiness and values can change our world. So I then taught in schools as a clown, a peace clown. I taught a program called Real Hopes, which is an acronym for responsibility, empathy, awareness, love, honesty, oneness, peace, enjoyment, and service. And it's a little bit like a rainbow bridge. So when you align all those values, you naturally will feel peace. It's an anti-bullying program too, so the children had to learn how to deal with differences, how they treat people, if that person's a stranger, a friend. So a lot of my life to date has been really being about developing inner peace, outer peace, and also reconnecting to humour and getting people to remember that really our happiness is more important than how much we own, how much money we make.
So what is happiness for you?
It's when you love yourself, actually. Most people don't love themselves. Most people will use their career, their position, their power to say, I'm something. But really they don't love themselves. They're proving to themselves that they're something.
So they are looking for external things.
Yes.
To be happy.
They're putting all their love in all the wrong places, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
The thing they were never taught as children was to love themselves. Their parents were, particularly in my culture, particularly critical. You know, you're getting that wrong, do this, you know, you're not doing it right, you know, you've got to get a job, you know. Mm. There's a lot of pressure on children and they see their families unhappy. So how on earth can you become a happy person if the role models in your life who you see like God aren't happy?
So why is it very difficult to be happy?
Because we really haven't been taught what happiness is. I mean, it is our true nature. Like if you're in an indigenous society without all the education and materialism, you'd probably have a natural happiness about you in any case. Mm-hmm. You know, the criticisms are not particularly prominent in indigenous society. That hasn't been, if you like, it hasn't taken on the Western type, you know, unhappiness. It was actually Gandhi in India who talked about the importation of British unhappiness into India. He said we are assimilating the greed rapidly, but we're not doing it for ourselves. We're not being independent, having pride and self-love. You know, there was a lot of misunderstanding, I think, in the people.
Mm-hmm. I think probably happiness is a choice, because currently in life there are different challenges, and that's okay. We can be in the anger position, in the victimization position state, or we can change to be happy, focus on the possibilities, even though the situation is hard. What do you think about that?
I think it requires a certain mastery, particularly when you're dealing with someone who's not happy, because those who are trained in well-being can often minimize and say, you've got to move out of this and stop being a victim. But I think what people actually need is when they're unhappy, they need to feel the feeling all the way through to the end. You need to cry it out. Mm-hmm. Otherwise it returns or it goes into the tissue.
So no hold emotion.
You let them feel what they feel. I think too many times coaches are trying to redirect their energy or into more happy things, but the ultimate core of what's creating the unhappiness is never resolved. And sometimes people just need to cry.
Release.
And we deny the
Release
crying.
the pain.
Yes, and so you feel what you feel, and that's okay. It's about getting to the core of what is the source of that unhappiness, and sometimes it's very hard to find because it can be unconscious. Might have come from an experience in your early life. So know thyself is what I often talk about with Happiness Australia. We've got to actually get to know ourselves. That means face everything and rise. So in other words, you don't just go, oh, let's all be happy, because there is that superficiality with happiness. Let's just be happy because it makes everyone happy.
Yeah. You go to a party and you're happy.
Yeah,
You buy a clothes, you are happy. You buy a house, a car, you are happy. But then what happens when this situation passes? You are unhappy.
And it's normal to have happiness and unhappiness. I mean, they are companions, and you don't know joy unless you know your sorrow. You know, as Khalil Gibran said, it's well worth people having a look at his poetry. He was Lebanese, actually. He was very wise. So I've been through a lot, and I've cried a lot, and I've written a lot of poetry to find the truth of situations. I didn't try and push them away. I actually confronted, but in a gentle way. I don't hate other people, because if you hate them, you're going to hold on to the anger and you just won't release it. There is a point when you come through examining what has gone wrong where you have to forgive the other party. You have to let it go at some point, but it's when you're ready.
Yeah, otherwise it's a low frequency for us. And before this interview, we've been talking about, you told me something important, I trust. I really don't focus on money. I don't have a bank account, but I trust. Tell us about that trust, please.
Let's just say that circumstances happened in my life where I got cut off income under false premise. But it turned out to be a gift in disguise. I also had a situation where my home, a council said that there was a pipeline going to be running next to the house and that I had to leave. So I became homeless, technically. But this shift in my life actually became a liberation for me, because I'm trained in economics, so I know about GDP, and we're all taught get a job, you know, security, material wealth. But what I found myself questioning was, is this really happiness? So I decided to trust. I did close down my bank account because of the corruption in the banks. And for me, happiness is staying in alignment with what I consider to be true. If an activity is causing misery for other people, such as in economics we call it structural violence. So if the structure of high prices, we've got big investors who may well be creating situations of poverty in a nation state because they might want the real estate, or there might be negative reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. That's a structural violence, and what often happens is the ones doing it don't have any idea of the impact on the one who loses their business or what have you. So for me, I decided to move out of that reality because I see it as exploitative. I've come to understand that the real wealth of a nation is inherent within the values of the people. These values are things like compassion, kindness. So when you look at a homeless person, many people have a lot of prejudices around that, and I've experienced it directly, because they're fearful of those who don't have, and they think they're going to want something. They've lost that sense of trust in their fellow human beings too, and their own instincts, which is, if someone's in need, go and help them. You're going to feel a lot better rather than transferring your guilt to a social impact investor who provides social housing. So I let go of the bank account. I chose to trust life, source, God, whatever you want to call it. And this is now my 8th year. So I have rules. I don't ask people for anything. If something comes to me through love, I accept it. If it doesn't come through love, I don't want charity, because the person will only resent. So I allow life to ebb and flow, if you like, and what I have is what I want. What I don't have is fine. I don't have it. It's reality. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm living more in reality.
So what's the impact moving from 3D mentality to 5D mentality?
I think first we've got to define what 3D is. For those who don't know anything about the dimensions that we're talking about, they're really to do with frequencies of consciousness. Mm-hmm. When we talk of third dimension, we're talking about this plane we're on now. It's all physical. When a person moves into the 4th dimension, they may well be more loving. They will be more loving. And they're less fearful, because they're starting to shed all the mental constructs that we've all been taught from childhood.
That's the bridge to go ahead.
Yeah, you start to move and you start to get inspiration. That happens far more. I get a lot of inspiration. Mm-hmm. And you start to look through the concepts that we were all trained as children, and the television media keeps promoting. Mm. So as people start to rise out of this, they become less fearful. So if we're talking about the 5th dimension, that's a place of great peace.
Wow.
And when you're at peace, you've actually resolved inner conflict with you. In other words, you're starting to love yourself as you are. You look at the other person, you're not looking for what's wrong. You can already see that everything is right. Mm-hmm. You start to know that there's no coincidences in life, that things are happening for you, not against you.
Yeah.
So when I lost my home, when I was cut off income, when I saw rigidities in the system where I wasn't getting what was appropriate for me, I saw that working for me because I was here to learn to live without money. I was here to learn to trust life, and I was to do it in a positive way, not as a victim.
And there is a funny thing, people are willing to get many things. They want many things, but you don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. So people need to start working on themselves first in order to start bringing more beautiful things to their life. As you say before, who you are, how you love yourself, how you trust the source or anything, name it, it doesn't matter. But how important is trust?
And also self-worth. A lot of people are attaching ideas that my self-worth is on the basis of how much I earn and the assets that I own. And these are false.
Yeah, people look for validation.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Look at me.
yeah, look at me. I don't need anything. I am who I am. I can progress along the time, but I am who I am. That's the most important thing. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that.
But a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, they don't know.
They don't understand.
They don't understand.
Because they've been taught to think in certain ways.
Yeah.
So self-acceptance is critical, and you've got to forgive the past. So all these hurts that have happened, everybody's being hurt.
It's part of the lesson.
It's all coming for you.
Yeah.
You either decide to look at yourself as a victim, and you can tell the story of the victim over and over and keep that frequency low, and it actually attracts, like you said very wisely, it attracts into your life exactly what you think you are.
Yeah.
If you think you're a lot more beautiful and wonderful, and it's not vanity, this is, I'm far more than I thought I was, and I don't even know who I am anymore, but whatever it is, it feels wonderful.
Look at your face, you are shining. When you are talking, you are shining. Yeah, your frequency is so high.
It's lifting, yeah. And that's how it feels. You start to feel unlimited. And that's why, and it's not about validation with money, because I've talked to light workers who are talking about making millions, and whilst I say go ahead and do what makes you happy, just be aware that you don't silently send a signal that this $500,000 that I'm worth is a validation of my worth. You're worth the same whether you have $500,000 or $1 million, or whether you have $1 in your purse.
Yeah.
You're the same.
Yeah.
So it's really about us finding ourselves and accepting ourselves, I think.
Yeah, Happiness Australia is offering different programs, projects, activities. Could you tell us, please, how people can contact you?
Just very quickly before I do, and I will.
Okay.
Happiness Australia is a call to action. It's not a business, and it's
Okay.
not volunteering. So I have funships there where people can learn to laugh out loud, play like clowns, conflict resolution and inquiry, the work of Byron Katie. If they want to contact me, they can go to Happiness Australia at worldpeaceful.com. And if they want to check the website, go to ha.worldpeaceful with 2 L's .com.
Okay, okay. If someone is struggling to believe happiness is possible, what would you say to them, please?
When people are in a low frequency and they're feeling very sad, it's very hard to convince a person that you can be happy because they feel very dense energy around themselves. I find my voice can help. When I talk to people who've been down, I've just had someone recently I've had that with. You can put your arm around them and let them know they're not alone, firstly. If they want to cry, give them permission to cry and don't say, don't cry.
Oh, I can feel it.
You know? And then you say, I want you to think back to times where you felt happy. So let's write down a few of those ideas. So when you're a child, when did you feel happy? And you get them to remember the frequency. Okay, when you're a teenager, what was the happiest moment you had? That's great. Now, if you could wave a magic wand and get rid of all your problems, what do you see yourself doing? What could you be? And suddenly they drop it all, the story, and there's this magnificent potential possibility sitting in front of them. But you have to work them towards it. You can't just go from 0 to 5D.
To the top.
You can't. You have to go slowly, work your way up.
That's the problem with people, sometimes they want to be successful or to get things overnight. They are missing the work part. So it's a process, one step at a time, as you are saying.
Well, instant gratification society is what we created, and we use money to get instant pleasure, but that's not joy and that's not happiness. It's self-acceptance is the real happiness. If you don't have that, you won't be happy. It doesn't matter how much you have.
Yeah, that's completely right. Thank you, Susan, for being here in the podcast. I really appreciate your message, your expertise and everything. Thank you for being with us.
And thank you for doing what you do, because you're an angel yourself.
Oh, okay? Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure to reconnect.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have this episode with the beautiful Susan with an important topic. It was Gaby Company in Melbourne, Australia. See you next time. Bye bye.